Our arrangement is a little challenging this morning. The person at the end of the table, I can't even see. I hope you can hear me. May we start? I just want to test if my voice can carry. Can the people on the extreme end of the table just raise their hands and say hi? Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. At least you can hear me. I think we should start. Honorable members, the Auditor-General and the entire staff, the Director General and the departments present, good morning. Yeah. I'd like to just first start by welcoming the members and apologize for the inconvenience. We tried to get a venue. It looks like we got up with a bit of a challenging weather. And so we apologize for the fact that we delayed getting here. I think our logistics are a bit of a challenge. But at least now we do have members. Let's welcome all the members who are here. There may be a couple, maybe one or two might slip on their way, but we should start. Let me then start by welcoming Ms. Maluleke, the Auditor-General, and the entire team. We feel very special today to get a briefing from the Office of the Auditor-General. We've been looking forward to it. And so as the members of this committee, we're here to engage after we've got the briefing. And our approach this morning will be, we will have the presentation from the AG's office, and then the members will be free to engage. And I think, as we all understand, the documents are only being circulated this morning. That's a precaution that we normally take. And so we will then follow as things go. But if we need to, we have also got an offer from the AG's office to come back and spend as much time as we might need so that we can have an understanding of the issues at play. We welcome the Director General and the whole CoGTA team. We have an apology from the Minister who could not be with us this morning due to other pressing matters of state, as well as the Deputy Minister who may join us a bit later as we move along. But we've got an understanding that we'll all proceed even in their absence and make sure that we cover the business of the day. We do have a tight day, and we've got some other item after this one. So I hope that we'll be mindful as we walk along, but also we have to say you are free to raise as much of the issues as you wish to so that we can do justice onto the subject. So thank you very much. I am not sure. If I should introduce the members for your team, yeah, it might be helpful. So the members, normally, because we belong to different political parties, we have to actually use our own voices to introduce ourselves. So I will not introduce the members. I'm going to ask the members to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Honorable Van Zyl.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marina van Zyl. I'm from the Eastern Cape, and I'm a member of Parliament serving on the CoGTA committee.
Good morning, everyone. I am Kathy Labiskachny. I am from the Western Cape and I'm a member of the CoGTA Portfolio Committee.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, AG. I'm Hlengiwe Mkhalipi. I'm a member of this committee, CoGTA, and I'm from Africa.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members of the AG's office. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning, everyone present. I'm Vispan Reddy from Umkhonto Wesizwe Party, and like my colleague here in red, I'm from Africa.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues, as well as the Office of the Auditor-General. It's my first time in this meeting. I have just been redeployed to this committee by the African National Congress. I am coming from the Eastern Cape, OR Tambo region, Nyandeni sub-region. The magisterial district is Libode. Pumelele Ndamase is my name. Thank you very much.
Morning, Chair. Morning, members of the Office of the AG. Name is Glenn Tybosh. I represent the MK Party. Thank you.
You can pull the mic a bit closer so we can hear clearly.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues and the AG. My name is Dikeledi Direko and I'm from Free State. I'm the member of the committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, AG and your team. And good morning, colleagues. My name is Honorable Sompa Masiu. I'm from Northwest. I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just wished us to introduce only the members of parliament, members of the committee. Of course, we've got the rest of the team here from the parliamentary support structure, as well as from the Director General in the CoGTA department. May I therefore hand over to you, Mr. Maluleke. Please take us through.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair, and a warm greeting to yourself as well as to the honourable members. I'd like to greet the DG who's here, as well as the officials from the department, the support staff from the parliamentary support services, and my colleagues from Team AGSA, as well as the ladies and gentlemen from the media. Thank you for the opportunity to present to the committee the local government audit outcomes. This is the formal tabling of our annual Consolidated General Report on the audit outcomes for local government in respect of the year ended the 30th of June 2023. This particular year would have marked the first full year under the control of the new administration in local government following the 2021 local government elections. The new councils were established in the middle of financial year 2022, so this is the first full year under their control. The individual audits were completed, the respective audit reports were tabled in the respective councils as at the end of January 2024 as required. What we've done since then is to consolidate the data and to analyze it so that we can then share with you a view on the consolidated picture of the state of financial management and performance management in local government. I want to highlight, Honourable Chair, that we have had an opportunity to brief the Honourable Minister as well as the Deputy Ministers. The AGSA operates on the basis of our constitutional mandate as well as the provisions of the Public Audit Act, which essentially require us to independently audit and report on financial and performance management in every public institution. Our annual regularity audit, which we conduct across government, across all three spheres of government, covers three critical areas: the credibility of financial statements, the usefulness and reliability of performance information. We also look at and conclude on whether or not there has been compliance with key laws and regulations that relate to financial and performance management. When an auditee, such in this case a municipality, has had a tick on credible financial statements, a tick on useful and reliable performance information, and has had no material findings of non-compliance with the laws that we've scoped into our audit, then they get what is called a clean audit. Effectively, it is an unqualified opinion on financial statements with no other findings. When an auditee has got an unqualified opinion with other findings, it means that their financials are correct, their debits and credits are correct. However, they do have some or other problem on compliance and or the credibility of their service delivery report. The other category of audit outcomes, which you'll often hear us talk about, is qualified audit opinion, which means that there's something wrong with the debits and credits. The financial statements cannot be fully relied upon. And then they would have findings on compliance as well as with their service delivery report. The individual audit reports that form part of the annual reports detail the audit outcomes, but they also provide some insight on our view on the state of internal controls, as well as indicate whether or not we found material irregularities. That's in relation to the new powers that the office has. And so I map this out to highlight that if you read an audit report from the Office of the AG, it does give you a good sense of the state of financial and performance management, which does give you a good sense of the state of governance, of performance, of accountability, transparency, and institutional integrity. We believe wholeheartedly that it is crucial that each and every public institution perform on its given mandate. Those that are appointed as stewards of public institutions must deploy the resources that they have been entrusted with in pursuit of their given mandate. In fact, Section 195 of our Constitution demands that public servants deliver effectively and efficiently on their mandate and be transparent and accountable at the same time. In order to do this, there must be a consistent focus on preserving and building the strength and integrity of the institution. This is particularly true for local government institutions, municipalities, and their entities, and they operate within an ecosystem of accountability. You may have heard us talk about this ecosystem of accountability. Essentially, we recognize that in the context of any public institution, there are a number of role players or actors that have distinct and yet complementary mandates and responsibilities. If they are effective, each of them individually and therefore as a collective, if all of them are effective in giving effect to their real mandate, then we will be able to see many more public institutions operating on mandate, being transparent, being accountable, and investing in the institutional strength and integrity. Here we're referring to officials within an institution, their senior managers that supervise them, and then the accounting officer, who in the context of a municipality would be the municipal manager. It's important that this individual have the competence and instill discipline in terms of how that particular municipality runs. And they should enlist the support of an effective internal audit function as well as an audit committee. We also look carefully at the role that should be played by the mayors and the speakers, working with their municipal public accounts committees and their municipal councils. To the right of the slide, you'll see that we highlight the role that should be played by the provincial executive and legislatures, as well as the national executive and legislatures. When we look at the provisions in the Constitution and other enabling legislation, we recognize that there are different role players whom there are different messages to whom we can address. So as Team AGSA, we have the privilege of auditing all the public institutions. We have the privilege of engaging with different players in this ecosystem. We operate in the context of the accounting officer and the people they supervise. When we conduct the audits, we engage with the executive on a regular basis, and we engage with oversight. We believe that if we can continue to provide insight that's independent, that's timely, relevant, and credible, it can support every one of these players to do their job even better. And if that happens, then we'll be able to get to a point where every public institution does operate on mandate. I now come to the outcomes for local government, just to orientate the honorable members on what this slide says. The top row gives the audit outcomes for the year ended 2021, which was the last year of the previous administration of local government. The 2022 financial year is the one that comes next. And the 2023, which is the third row from the top, that is the set of outcomes as they stood when we completed our audits and we commenced our analysis. At the time, we had completed only 247 of the audits, and there were 10 outstanding. Much of it is as a result of late submission of financial statements. There was one instance where the audit process was delayed as there was a matter that has still to be adjudicated upon. And there were two sets of financial statements that had not yet been submitted to us for audit. Since March, which is when we commenced with our analysis, we've completed more audits, 7 more audits. So the last row is the one I will talk to when I deal with specific outcomes, but I want to highlight that our analysis, as it sits in the general report, focuses on the third row on this slide. And as you can see, we completed 7 audits between the end of March and the end of June. Most of those ended up in the qualified space, which is the purple zone. So 5 of those ended up in the purple zone, and an additional 2 ended up as disclaimers. Let me give you a sense of what these outcomes are telling us. If you look at the 34 clean audits, you can see quite clearly that we are going backwards in terms of the number of clean audits that are being delivered within the local government system. We are further behind than where we began with this particular administration. A clean audit is where that particular auditee has got credible financials, they have a useful and reliable service delivery report, and they have complied with key laws and regulations that relate to financial and performance management. It's important for me to highlight that of the 34, there are 30 that have got repeat clean audits. Some of them had clean audits in the previous financial year, and a large number of them have had clean audits for multiple years. What that tells us is that these auditees, these 30 that have got repeat clean audits, have established the key disciplines, the key preventative controls to prevent problems, to detect them quickly if they should happen, and to act swiftly if they should identify them. It doesn't mean that things are perfect in those environments, but it does mean that the basics are in place. It does mean that those auditees are well positioned to deliver on their mandates. At least they can show you where they have deployed public resources and to what end. We may argue about whether they have delivered services to all the residents in a particular community, but at least you do have a credible and reliable service delivery report upon which to assess and to ultimately make a decision. The 110 unqualified audits with findings, those are the ones where they are able to get to credible financial statements at the end of the audit process. So you can rely on their debits and credits as reported in the financial statements. Most of them struggle with compiling credible service delivery reports, and the vast majority struggle with compliance matters, and specifically compliance matters as it relates to procurement, supply chain management, contract management. And as we know, those laws have been designed to help public institutions avoid leakage, optimize the quality of spend. And when we see these transgressions, especially on a repeat basis, it tells us that there are inadequate disciplines and monitoring controls to ensure that public resources are spent in a manner that's consistent with the rule of law. The 90 qualified, the ones in the purple zone, they are the ones where we can tell you where they are struggling with credible reporting on how they've used public funds. The areas where these municipalities struggle tend to be on accounting for revenues, mostly because they don't bill correctly. They struggle to account properly for receivables in that they're not sure who owes them and they're not managing their debtors book appropriately. They struggle to account properly for their expenditure. They struggle to account for irregular expenditure. And also they struggle to account for their property, plant and equipment, their capital assets, their infrastructure. And that's quite important because if municipalities do not have the type of controls that help them understand where their assets are, what state they are in, they are unlikely to even have a credible maintenance plan that's being implemented. And that then accounts for much of the degradation of infrastructure assets that are already in hand. It also accounts for the inability to properly report on what they've invested in, what new assets they've invested in. So this area of not being able to account for assets is quite important. It's not merely a technical accounting issue. It's about a lack of skills, capacity, and discipline to look after the assets that they have in their hands. The 6 municipalities that have got adverse findings, many of them have been in that category for a very long time. What we're saying is that the financial statements simply cannot be relied upon. And that means that they have a whole lot of problems with different areas of their financial management. Perhaps a little bit of good news. We've been able to reduce the number of disclaimers over time. When we started with this administration, we had 28 disclaimers, and now we're at 14 disclaimers. When we started the analysis, we had counted 12 disclaimers. We've since completed 2 additional audits that fell into the disclaimer zone. What it tells us is that our messages on why it is unacceptable, intolerable for a municipality to have a disclaimer audit opinion year on year on year, that message has been heeded. Our call for the provincial leadership to support municipalities in getting out of this space has actually been taken up, and there have been a number of provincial governments across the country that have made it their business to support municipalities in getting out of this disclaimer zone. There are 3 audits that were still incomplete. Here there's one where there was a delay in the audit process, and then there are 2, specifically Maluleke as well as Ditsobotla, that have not submitted their financial statements. And their financial statements have been outstanding for a number of years now. In fact, fortunately, at Maluleke, the financial statements for the municipality and for the water board, those individual statements have been submitted. What's still outstanding is a consolidated set. And the financial statements for Ditsobotla have not been submitted. The provincial government in the Northwest is assisting this particular auditee, this particular municipality, to attend to the matter of submission of financial statements. One of the big stories of our report, I've talked about the good news on disclaimers coming down. I want to also highlight that there has been an improvement in the rate of submitting financial statements. This was an issue we raised 2 years ago, where the submission rate had fallen to about 83%. Since then, there's been significant support and attention paid by the provincial governments to get municipalities to at least submit financial statements. And so we've seen a gradual improvement in the submission rate to what is now 94%. So that's encouraging. We believe that, indeed, the work of the provincial governments, insofar as disclaimers and submissions, as had been done in the context of the 6th administration, if we can continue with this type of posture and support, we'll be able to start seeing improvements across the line. We also keep highlighting that it's important to worry about disclaimers and non-submissions, and at least we're seeing some movement in that area. But equally important is to worry about the unqualified audits with findings, the ones in the yellow zone. These are 110. All too often, municipalities celebrate when they get an unqualified audit opinion. But what gets left behind is an understanding of the pitfalls of running a municipality that remains too comfortable in that unqualified space. Because here, they're unable to report faithfully on service delivery issues, and they're also unable to procure in a manner that's consistent with the law. And quite often that leads to tremendous leakage. So we believe that there needs to be just as much attention to moving most of these municipalities out of the unqualified space into the clean zone. The 110 that are there includes 77 that have been in the unqualified zone for a number of years. So there's inertia in that particular category, which should worry all of us, because we know that within that 110 are some very problematic municipalities and whose inability to deliver properly and to procure in a manner that's consistent with the law has a direct impact on the lived experience of citizens and a direct impact on the quality of spend of public resources. On page 20 of our general report, we list the names of the municipalities that have had clean audits for a number of years. I think we can all draw inspiration from them, because these are the municipalities that do demonstrate that the basics we keep highlighting as being desirable are indeed achievable. This slide, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, sets out the audit outcomes per type of municipality. The major headline to this would say, municipalities, large and small, struggle with the same things. If you look at the metropolitan municipalities, the big metros, they account for the significant budget across the country. They look after the majority of households across the country. And if you look at the audit outcomes for these metros, you can see that they're not doing better than the smaller municipalities. And indeed, they should be able to do so. They should be able to hire the type of skills that help them do what's required. They should be able to retain those skills within their environments. And we're seeing that, unfortunately, their audit outcomes profile is simply not impressive. If you look at the intermediate cities, you'll see that, again, we're not having a different profile of outcomes. And again, these are better capacitated municipalities, and so they should be doing a lot better. The 4 clean audits of the intermediate cities are allocated to Umhlatuze in KZN, Stellenbosch, Drakenstein, and George in the Western Cape. Those are the 4 intermediate cities with clean audits. The one audit that's outstanding amongst the intermediate cities is Malutia Pofong, which I spoke about earlier on. If you look at the district municipalities, you'll see again the outcomes are not as impressive as what they should be. And districts are often not as complex to run as local municipalities. And they should be able to lend support to local municipalities. They should be leading by example in the area of running basic disciplines. And we're not seeing that coming to the fore. The local municipalities are the ones where you've got the concentration of disclaimer audit opinions, the ones that struggle to submit their financial statements on time, but the profile of outcomes look much the same as the others. I'd like to just highlight a little bit on the metros. What we found is that in this year, and just to give you the historical account of the outcomes for metros, this year we've only got 1 clean audit amongst the metros, that is the city of Cape Town. The city of Ekurhuleni was a clean audit last year. It's moved back into unqualified with findings, having had some trouble with procurement issues. And they are now sitting in the unqualified space alongside City of Johannesburg, eThekwini, Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality. Nelson Mandela Bay moved out of qualified to unqualified, having attended to some financial statements issues that they were struggling with the previous financial year. The qualified audit opinions amongst metros are Mangaung, Buffalo City, and City of Tshwane. City of Tshwane moved out of adverse audit opinion the previous financial year, and they've moved up to qualified with findings. We're finding that metros struggle with controls over compliance, especially on procurement and contract management, but they also struggle with service delivery information. 75% of metros are unable to produce reliable service delivery reports. And as I said, these are the metros or institutions that should be able to hire the type of skills, to acquire the type of information systems that help them collate the data that allows them to compile credible financial statements as well as credible performance reports. We're finding that metros need support to build capacity, as strange as that might sound. We find that the political instability that often confronts the administration of metros has the direct impact of weakening those institutions. And weak institutions will always struggle to protect leakage, or rather to protect public resources. They'll always struggle to have the type of reliable and predictable controls and systems that make for a well-run institution. And we've seen the direct impact of weakened metros on the lives of citizens. I come now to the message around the disclaimed audit opinions. In the last 2 years, we've been raising the alarm over the number of disclaimer audit opinions amongst municipalities. We've also been at pains to highlight that there is a direct line between disclaimer of audit opinion over multiple years and dysfunction. A direct line between that dysfunction and poor services. So we believe that the debate about whether or not a disclaimer of audit opinion can exist alongside good service delivery, that debate is closed. We can all agree that disclaimers of audit opinions, especially year on year, those are intolerable. And we've raised the alarm. We've also given insight on what's wrong with these disclaimers. We've also raised particular recommendations for provincial departments of CoGTA, offices of the Premier, as well as provincial treasuries to support municipalities to get out of this space. And I'm pleased to report that a combination of different actions by the key role players, particularly the provincial executive and their legislatures, and in some instances the national department, a combination of those actions has really supported a number of municipalities to get out of the disclaimer audit opinions. As Team AGSA, we issued a number of material irregularities related to repeat disclaimers because we took the view very simply that if you are a municipal manager and you repeatedly flout the law by not maintaining proper records on what you're doing with public funds, then you're harming the institution. You are neglecting your duties as stipulated in the MFMA. You're harming transparency, and indeed, you're harming the institution. So we issued those MIs. So a combination of all these things has led to a situation where we've seen an improvement in disclaimers. And as you would have seen in the outcome slide, we've now had a number of disclaimers that moved out of that zone. This map really sets out where some of the improvements have been seen. Subsequent to compiling this slide, we finished the audits for Kanaland as well as for Mamusa, and they ended up with disclaimer audit opinions. So the number of disclaimer audit opinions increased from the 12 to the 14. What this tells you is that it is possible to move out of disclaimer audit zone, and indeed you can link the number of years where a municipality has been in repeat disclaimer, such as Masilonyana for 8 years. You can link that directly in terms of dysfunction at the service delivery level, which affects citizens very, very badly. But I think a very good outcome in that we've seen some encouraging improvements in this area. The provincial outcomes, which I won't dwell on too much, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, I'm happy to engage with them if there's a particular appetite for. I want to just highlight a couple of messages here. The 34 clean audits, 20 of them are in the Western Cape, and that's been the case for a number of years, where the concentration of clean audits tends to be in the Western Cape. We've seen some encouraging improvements in the outcomes profile for Eastern Cape and for KZN. And in both instances, it's mostly because the provincial executive made it their business to deal with poor audit outcomes for municipalities, whether it was in terms of advocacy, whether it was in terms of monitoring, and often it was in terms of support for municipalities to get better from an outcomes point of view. There are some provinces where clean audits remain very scarce, the Free State and the Northwest in particular, and Limpopo has lost the clean audits it used to have. But Free State and the Northwest, there's something of a drought of clean audits, and that's been the case for many, many years. And the Free State and the Northwest are where you'll find high numbers of disclaimer audit opinions, as well as a tendency to not submit financial statements. Fortunately, the provincial executive in both provinces has driven improvements, especially around submissions, as well as on disclaimers. So we're seeing a movement in the right direction there. But we can come back to the profile of the provincial stories if you'd like to. In our general report, the last section is dedicated to giving you a page and a half of a story about each and every province, so you can have a sense of what sits behind these numbers and the arrows pointing up and the ones pointing down. As part of our audit work, we are required to look at performance information, and that's a requirement as per Section 20 of the Public Audit Act. This area of auditing performance information confirms a worrying trend, which is that the disciplines of performance planning, performance monitoring, and reporting remain weak. The duty that sits on accounting officers and on councils to prepare and present credible service delivery reports, that duty is simply not attended to. We're seeing that there is non-compliance with the prescripts that relate to strategic planning and performance planning and management. We're finding that the achievements that are being reported are not reliable. We find that the indicators and targets are not well defined, they're not verifiable, and they're not measurable, which really talks to the quality of the information that's available for decision makers within an institution as well as others in the ecosystem, be it provincial government or national government, and even citizens as well. When we start our audits, the majority of municipalities submit annual performance reports that are of poor quality. So if you look at that graph, you'll see that 73%, that red part, that is the municipalities that submit poor quality performance reports. And the 66 are the ones that provided decent performance reports to begin at the beginning of the audit. Through the audit process, a number of them take the opportunity to make adjustments to the issues we raise, and then the 52% of them are able to publish credible performance reports. And then you've got the 48% where there is still no credible performance report that can be used for decision making. We keep raising this area because the story's been similar for many years. Similarly, even the issue of performance reports not being submitted for audit. There are 5 municipalities, the majority in the Northern Cape, that year after year simply don't submit performance reports. And there's a compliance matter we raise, but they keep continuing on that trend. The key reasons or limitations that lead to poor performance planning and reporting in our analysis remain skills, discipline, stability, because without stability, it's difficult to engage in any long-term planning, let alone focused, dedicated execution. Another key limitation is the absence of information systems that support the correlation of data required on an ongoing basis. We found that instead of attending to these weaknesses that we report on year, accounting officers opt for managing performance off the books. Instead of managing performance on a public-facing annual performance plan and report, they rather have something off the books that they use. That limits transparency, and it also makes it difficult to drive accountability. What we're also finding is that instead of dealing with the core limitations, accounting officers then opt for easier targets, and often targets that bear little relation to their key service delivery mandates. And so our appeal is that stability must be there, skills must be there, the different players in the ecosystem, including audit committees and internal audit, ought to worry about service delivery reporting just as much as they worry about financial statements. As part of our audits of looking at financial statements, but also performance information, we look at how grants are being managed in local government, the grants that come from the national fiscus. In order to build and maintain their infrastructure, municipalities are highly dependent on grants that are provided by national government. Many municipalities struggle to spend their grants within the stipulated timeframes, and mainly it's because of a limited capability to manage projects, especially those that run across multiple financial years. Significant underspending, especially at those with disclaimed audit opinions, continues. And if you look at the Free State and the Northern Cape, that's a real feature. We've also seen that some municipalities, because they've got their own financial viability problems, tend to then use these funds, these grants, towards expenditure that is inconsistent with the intended purpose. And then when they do spend the money on infrastructure, all too often, it is spent very poorly. We visited 75 projects across different municipalities. And here, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, we focused a lot of attention on selecting projects that were being run by municipalities in the unqualified zone, the ones with the yellow zone. And what we found was that the majority of projects had some or other problem. Either they were delayed, the work was of poor quality, there were cost overruns, or even when projects were completed, they were not put into use. And of course, the ongoing poor quality of spend of infrastructure monies has a detrimental impact on service delivery. It also causes harm to the public, because you can imagine if the assets that are in place are not being maintained well, and the assets that should be put into the ground, the newer assets should be implemented, are not being implemented, then you end up with wastewater treatment plants that are overloaded, which then causes harm to the environment and harm to the public. When we look at this in our analysis, we find that there are inadequate skills and capability to manage infrastructure projects. We find that even when there are infrastructure units set up, there isn't enough order in those areas. Job descriptions are unclear, the discipline of how projects will be managed is not there, there's poor management and performance management of the people within the municipality, the standard operating procedures are not there. So there's significant amount of effort still required to build the capability in municipalities to help them run infrastructure projects. If we don't deal with this, we'll continue to have poor quality of spend, and we'll continue to have degradation of infrastructure assets, and we'll continue to delay bringing on stream the new projects that should be supporting service delivery. On financial management, this is now specifically on the debits and credits. This slide, I just want to highlight a couple of messages. If you look at the graph in the middle of the slide, the green tells you about the percentage of municipalities that had credible financial statements when we commenced our audit. The dark blue, which is the 74%, tell you about the number of municipalities that had poor quality financial statements when we commenced our audit. During the audit process, most of them corrected those misstatements. So you find that between the 34 clean audits and the 110 unqualified with findings, you do have a majority of credible financial statements being prepared. But that masks something. it tells us that the basic disciplines of financial management during the year are not in place. Municipalities rely on the audit process to get to a credible set of financial statements. And it's one thing to give them a tick around credible financial statements tabled. But if there is no attention to building the daily and monthly controls that are required, to proper record keeping, if there's no attention to monthly and quarterly reports that are credible, and there is no discipline around reviewing and monitoring how finances are being run during the course of the year. If those things don't happen, these basic disciplines, the ability of municipalities to respond to crises will forever be limited. The ability to limit fraud, even by their own officials, will be limited. Because if you're not clearing suspense accounts and reconciling matters on a regular basis, you're not going to identify that something's going wrong in a particular section. The poor management of cash flows will continue to bedevil many municipalities, and they'll end up paying interest and penalties to key suppliers, such as Eskom and the water boards, when they could avoid it. And yes, a large number of them have got real financial pressure. But that should be an alarm bell to say, do manage the resources you do have much more effectively. So we're finding that all too often those basics are not in place. And here we would cite as key root causes, lack of skills once again, lack of information systems that are reliable, the instability often in a number of municipalities, which often follows political instability. And then we also find that there are inadequate consequences for poor performance. So if you have a CFO in place, there is no reason why they should not be able to compile a set of financial statements that's credible. If they have a team around them, there's absolutely no reason why. And if you set a culture where they continue to get away with that, then you'll not be able to build an institution of strength, an institution of integrity. Partly because of these weaknesses around skills and discipline and culture, we find that there's ongoing reliance, over-reliance on the use of consultants to compile financial statements. And this is a message we would have issued many times before, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record. I'll give some good news. Following a number of messages over the years about why this is unsustainable, why this is intolerable, a number of provinces have responded, a number of municipalities have responded. So the amount of money being spent by municipalities for this purpose has reduced from 1.63 billion last year to 1.35 billion in the 2023 financial year. For the first time in the 11 years we've been tracking this number is moving in the right direction. There is a profile there which will show you which provinces are doing better and which ones not so much. The slide on the right, the right-hand side part of the slide highlights a key message, which is that the audits with clean audits, the municipalities with clean audits still use consultants, but to a much less extent. They use them for specific technical issues. The ones that over-rely and spend the greatest amount of money are the ones with the disclaimer, audit opinions, the adverse, and the qualified. And so it tells us still about the lack of skills, the lack of discipline, the lack of consequences. It also tells us that the attention that we pay to helping municipalities at least submit financial statements, get out of disclaimers, move out of qualified, that attention must be matched with attention to getting them to build their own institutional capabilities. Because if we don't invest on that, this support that's offered will always have a very short-term benefit in that at least audit outcomes look better, we all feel a little bit better, but then underneath it, we're not building the capability that municipalities require to run their affairs. Often when we table these reports, Honorable Chair, the response says, yeah, AG, you give us these bad news year on year, We gave you powers. What have you done with them? So I'm getting to that space. And as we know, the law was amended in 2019, effective from the 1st of April 2019, to give the AG more powers. And just a refresher, these powers are essentially a complementary mechanism for us to support consequence management within government. We don't take over the duties of accounting officers. We don't take over the duties of the executive or of oversight. Ours is to follow up, to refer when others fail to take remedial action when others fail to, and to ultimately issue a certificate of debt. It's important that I highlight that our job is not to take over the job of others. It's to continue to harass them gently, to do their bit, and to push them towards acting in a manner that's in accordance with their given responsibilities and authority. Over the years, we have implemented these powers over a growing number of municipalities. When we started in 2019, we implemented at only 9 municipalities across the country. We would have covered every single municipality. So the vast majority of municipalities have got these powers being implemented. The reason we had to be gradual about it is because we had to build our own capacity to respond to that, to these new powers and responsibilities, but we also had to take accounting officers on board as we implemented this. Over time, we've identified 360 material irregularities among municipalities. Of these 360, 260 relate to matters where we can link the transgression to a financial loss. The financial loss associated with these 260 MIs we identified is estimated at a total of 7.3 billion rand. This is now the MIs we've identified through our sample of auditing and MIs where we identified that the accounting officer was not yet acting on the issue. If it's an issue and they're dealing with it, we don't raise it. It's only if they're failing to act on it that we'll raise an MI. The areas where we raise MIs relate to things that will sound familiar from what I said before. Not having controls to pay only for the goods and services you've received. Financial losses arise when procurement processes are not run in a manner that's consistent with the law, resulting in unfair, uncompetitive, and uneconomical procurement processes. We've also raised MIs where there's ineffective use of financial reporting consultants, and we focused here only on consultants that relate to financial reporting, because that's an area we deal with directly. But the issues that sit underneath these decisions to keep relying on financial consultants, those matters would apply to other types of consultants that are being used in municipalities. We've identified MIs where revenue is not being billed or not being recovered. And for municipalities that have got commercial viability issues or financial viability challenges, this area needs attention. We've identified MIs where investments were made inappropriately, such as monies that went into VBS. And we also raised matters where interest and penalties were paid when they could have been avoided had there been better cash flow management. The other parts of the definition of an MI cover not just financial loss, but cover transgressions that we can link to harm being caused to public sector institutions, such as when there are repeated disclaimers. And as I said earlier on, we issued MIs where we took the view that your failure to get out of a disclaimer zone is compromising transparency, compromising accountability, and weakening the institution. And that's been responded to. We've also identified the opportunity to use our MI powers to get people to submit financial statements. We've also raised MIs on performance information. Some of the exciting MIs we've issued relate to the non-maintenance of key infrastructure assets, which leads to the pollution of wastewater resources, specifically when wastewater treatment plants are not being maintained properly, which not only breaks the law but causes harm to the general public. We've also taken the time to issue MIs where we identified that landfill sites were not being managed properly, causing harm to the public and to the environment. This is not debits and credits stuff. It does arise out of the AGSA using its mandate to audit financial statements, performance information and compliance, and using its powers as defined in the definition of the MI, to try and get municipalities and those that run them to do what they're supposed to do, which is to preserve public resources, to protect institutions, and to serve the public and minimize harm to the public. The impact of the work that we've been doing on MIs is such that we can report that through the responsiveness of accounting officers. So we're finding that when we issue an MI, accounting officers do respond. Many of them have set about ensuring that they strengthen controls so that they don't have a recurrence of the issue. They've set about disciplining officials employed by them. Because there used to be a delay or a reluctance to do that. We still find it, but we find that if we issue an MI and we keep following it up with a recommendation and even the threat of taking remedial action, the disciplinary processes do begin. We've seen accounting officers reporting matters to law enforcement for investigations and criminal investigations. We've also seen submissions of financial statements, fixing wastewater treatment plants, which really has a direct impact on better living conditions for citizens. And we've also had supplier contracts reversed or cancelled as a consequence of us using these powers. In terms of resource protection, 261 million rand has come back into the coffers of respective municipalities. 218 of financial loss has been prevented, and 444 million rand of financial losses are being recovered. That's a total of 924 million rand of resources being protected as a consequence of the AGSA using its powers of enforcement. Ours remains, and I'll say it again, not to take over the duties of accounting officers, but to use our powers to compel them to act in a manner that's consistent with the powers and authority in their name. We've seen them also referring matters directly for investigation, and we've also seen them following up on investigations in the way that they never used to. When we look at the 924 I talked about of resource protection, and you look at the 7 billion rand of losses that we've estimated, it's a pretty big gap. So it tells us that we cannot rely only on these MI powers to get local government operating on its mandate and with efficiency. It's imperative that we worry about getting the people who are running municipalities to do so properly. So our call to action, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, remains pretty much what you've seen before. And it's mainly because the root causes to these problems remain what you've seen before. We've talked about inadequate skills and capacity in municipalities. We highlight that there are governance failures, starting with political instability, as well as the poor functioning of councils and other players in the ecosystem of accountability. We also highlight that we've got to push back on the culture of poor accountability and poor consequence management. So our recommendations will sound familiar, but that shouldn't surprise you because the root causes remain the same. It's important that there be attention to professionalizing local government and to capacitating local government. Crucial that there be people of competence, people of good ethical posture, people of conscientious attention to their duties, and people who will do what they're supposed to do and be willing to be held accountable for it. Also important that we worry about getting everyone in the ecosystem of accountability focused on building capable institutions. And yes, that's going to take time. And yes, sometimes it's easier to chase the win of submissions and disclaimers, as important as that is. But it's important also that we worry about building institutional capabilities for municipalities. As you would have heard earlier on, even the metros have got weakened capabilities to do what they're supposed to do. And lastly, it's imperative that there be a focus on building a culture that's characterized by ethics and accountability. And that applies to all in the ecosystem, starting with the ones in the administration, going to the ones in political leadership, going to the ones in different spheres of government beyond local government. If we don't do that, we're going to continue to see weakened institutions at local government level, and we're going to see an ongoing degradation of service delivery, and we're going to see ongoing diminishing trust between municipalities and the people that they serve. And that, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, is our message for the 2023 local government audit. The report itself is available on our website of the AGSA, mfma-2023.agsareports.co.za. And perhaps before I sign off, having highlighted our recommendations, having highlighted our call to action, it does give us encouragement to have heard the attention that the national government plans to pay to local government. It does give us comfort that all in the ecosystem of accountability are just as concerned about local government as they should be, and that they are intending to focus their attention on building the institutions within local government and in supporting municipalities to effectively deliver on their mandates. And that's a source of inspiration and hope for the teams at AGSA, and I hope that is so for all the citizens across our land. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much to the Auditor General. May I take this opportunity to welcome the Minister, Honorable Minister Bulawai. Thank you very much. We did get an apology that you'll be joining us late. And the Deputy Minister, welcome, Tao. I don't know if at least I can see the Deputy Minister. I'm not sure if both are here. Only one. Oh, thank you very much. Yes, and indeed, we find this very good to have your company, and we are aware you are very, very busy. In between, the Deputy Ministers have actually come to give support to the committee on the past few days. And so your personal commitment has always been noted. We're aware that the whole country is calling for your presence. So thank you very much. Let me then take this opportunity, or maybe let me just say, before we go very far, members of the media, you are very welcome to this committee. And I really hope that you will make a habit of visiting this committee. And isn't it, members? Look at us, we're all smiling now, waiting to appear on your television. So, but thank you very much. I think what is important for us in your presence is to be able to carry the message through that we are fighting for transparency. We would like to make sure that whatever is happening is known by the public, and it happens right in the glare of the public. But in addition, we also would like to thank you for helping us to spread the news. All this information is more useful if it is known by the people out there in the whole country, and therefore we want to say thank you. Once again, thank you very much, Honorable Ms. Maluleke, the Auditor General. I must say that it's been quite an informative report, and for us, we will need time to study it. But nevertheless, there are already some few things that for us are important. between us, yourself, the Auditor General's office and this committee, our major issues are about ensuring accountability. That, excuse me, the resources that are made available for for service delivery are indeed utilized properly, and so you give us a sense of how we are performing as the different spheres of government in this regard. Where we can support you and we can say we actually agree with you is the fact that we need to build strong institutions. We need to build strong local government. We need to build capable, ethical local government. We need to build a local government sphere that is, it's got good governance and is also able to deliver services in a manner that will satisfy our people, despite the paucity of the resources. So on the areas of ensuring that we create a professional, capable local government made of competent individuals, well-skilled, and also with a culture of ethical conduct and accountability, that for us, we agree with you entirely. In addition, we also will agree on the issue of the stability at the local government level, political stability and the stability at the interface between the political and administrative line, and also the competence and good governance within the institutions. And throughout the report, if there's one thing that's come out, has been the issue of the lack of skills. That has been a refrain over the years, and it's a very, very important issue. And we throw again the challenge. We would like this department, CoGTA, to give us a sense. What is the department doing to support the municipalities to build those skills, to support the municipalities to ensure that those systems are built in? You've taken us through quite a lot, and I think we do appreciate this. From our point of view, the concern about the regression from clean audit is quite a serious thing. We wouldn't have expected, particularly with the new powers that the AG has also got, and the general enthusiasm that you get from government right across, that this regression shouldn't really have been happening. So we would like the department to give us a sense. What are you doing to reverse this situation? We didn't expect it at this point. Again, you were talking about an encouraging increase in unqualified audits, which is good, but then the fact that there are many municipalities that are struggling is again another area that we need to focus on, particularly the issue of repeat offenders. Now, we shouldn't be having that. But what we have been worried about as the committee has been the dysfunctionality. Dysfunctionality, we have actually said we need blow by blow, municipality by municipality report, because we intend to visit a number of them. But we agree as well, and we think that this report is going to be very helpful for us. Audits report, together with the report in terms of the general service delivery issues in the municipalities, are going to be the issues that are going to be guiding us as we move around to do oversight visit right across. So all of this, I think it's important for us. We're also concerned about this aspect of metros not performing better when they've got the resources. Again, I think we need to go into a little bit more there. What is causing that problem? And the department is going to obviously help us to understand why, when you got a metro that's got enough resources to be able to get the best skills available in the country, why should they struggle like small municipalities? What is the problem there? So we need to get to that kind of understanding as well. Excuse me. So look, I think I'm going to allow the members to take us through their own views, their comments, their concerns, so that you can deal with this. I'll take the first hand up, but actually all the members want to speak. So we will actually, I think the numbers are increasing, so we'll just take a row. This time around, okay. All right, let's start from the back. Honorable Souls, I see your hand, then we'll come this way. And each and every one of us would like to have a word with the Auditor General And so let's allow that process. Thank you very much, Honorable Souls.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and greetings to the
May I request that we pull it a bit closer
closer.
so that we can hear. Thank you. And for those of us at the back, if you're not hearing what's happening, just raise your hand. I'll know. Then we'll try and ask the members to speak closer to the mic. Thank you very much, Honorable Souls.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and greetings to the Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, Honorable members, and the AG and the team. Honorable Chair, I would like to ask a question, but before I do, at the risk of being perceived as moving away from the decorum of the sitting today, but I'm going to depend on my knowledge that you are very objective and sensitive to the traditional affairs. It's almost as if I can feel and hear the blood of my ancestors crying out on this platform that we are at here, this venue that we are at here. It's the Castle of Good Hope. Kratoa, at the age of 11, was brought here. A Khoisan ancestor was brought here at the age of 11 and was a domestic worker and servant of Jan van Riebeck, and was raised here, became an interpreter. May I just...
No. Let's allow the member. I'll indicate if I think he's getting out. But let's come closer to the Auditor General. But I think your point is relevant, but and important. But try and cut it closer.
Thank you, Chairperson, for your indulgence. And I have a question for the Auditor General, but I would like to appeal to you in respect of that, and given the department that we represent or the committee that we represent, is it possible somewhere within this meeting for us to have a moment of silence in remembrance of our ancestors that was at this particular venue and location, and in consideration of what they went through and our history as Khoisan and Busman people? That's my first request, Chairperson, and then my question to the AG. On the slide of the material irregularities, the status and the impact, one that's mentioned is fraud and criminal investigations that has been instituted. I note that it's huge amounts that has been estimated to have been lost. I want to understand, is there any indication of the outcomes of those investigations? Because usually it's almost like a slap on the hand when public funds are misused and lost. So I'd like to understand, is there any indication of material outcomes of those fraud and criminal investigations? Has there been arrests? Has there been people that has been decisively dealt with? And I think that would serve as more of a deterrent as well. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Let's get to Honorable Sompa. You will, Honorable Souls, you do owe me a little bit of a background to the request. We don't share the exact amount, as much as we will all be both sensitive and inspired by the history. But in the absence of a proper background, it would be difficult to deal with it. So we'll need to, me and you, find a way to close that gap, then we can deal with your first response. But then the questions are noted. Let's take the next member to comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and greetings to the Minister and Deputy Minister.
I think your mic is very shy, so please bring it closer to you so we can hear you better.
Am I audible? Okay.
It's better now, yeah.
Thank you very much. Greetings to the Minister and the Deputy Minister, the team of CoGTA, that is here, the AG and her team. Chairperson, now my questions is just going to be on the issues that the Auditor General have outlook about two municipalities, about Ditsobotla and the other one, that municipality from the Free State. I just wanted to hear, because she's saying that they have not submitted their financial statements. So how long does it take for the Auditor General Office, maybe if to trace, or if the municipality did not submit their financial statement, what are the repercussions for that municipality? And then second to that, how long does it take for you to make a follow-up to say you need to submit the time frame? What is the time frame that is given to this municipality that have not submitted their financial statement? Thank you.
I don't know if that was quite clear. Yes. Okay. Thank you. I think that's fine. Please, let's get Honorable Direko.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to Deputy Minister and the Minister and the Office of the AGs. On the presentation, the AG indicated that we have different role players in our municipalities, which is true. However, in some municipalities, there are allegations of political interference. And I believe that these allegations are also contributing to negative audit outcomes in our municipalities. During this audit, has the AG's office come across political interference? If there's such, what are the recommendations from the AG? Secondly, Chair, during the previous audit outcome of 2021 and 2022, we raised a serious concern about the excessive usage of consultant in our municipalities, which was taking a lot of money. And we believe that if there was an in-house skills within the municipality, those services could have been replaced by the municipal workers instead of service providers. And on the presentation, I also saw that in terms of the service providers that were used for compiling the audit, annual financial statement of the municipalities, there has been a decrease in that. But for other consultants that are being used in municipalities, is there any a signage of the reduction in terms of the usage of the service providers in our municipalities? Thirdly, Chair, is there any action or support provided by AG's office to these municipalities who are repeat offenders in terms of the disclaimer audit outcomes? And lastly, Chair, I also want the AG to take us along on the impact of municipal debt and how does they affect our audit outcomes of the municipalities. For instance, the institutions such as your ESCOM, your water boards, your SARS, and litigations in municipalities, how do they affect our audit outcomes? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Direko. Honorable Taibosh.
Now, again, currently, it's still a problem. And as I've mentioned in this meeting, the officials, some of the officials that work in the municipality have made it they've made it their work to report this to us. And they're saying that the municipality is draining money. There are people appointed there, specifically the mayor's wife and things like that. And also the cases does not get to court, because it seems like like I said, the judiciary is also involved, because every time there's supposed to be a court case, the magistrate has to go to Harry Smith or somewhere else. But it seems like these people are just getting away with murder, and we are not doing enough. So my question is, when is enough from the AG's perspective? Already these people have outstanding audits. They're allowed to operate as they are at the moment, and they're just going crazy with public money, and nobody accounts for it. It's almost like we don't care what happens. Thank you, sir.
Maybe before we let you go, do you have some specifics that you can, in terms of the names? Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Then that's fine. We'll have to pick it up, because in such a case, the AG will still respond, and I'm sure the minister will. But the issue is for us to actually process the specific, and give it to them. Exactly. All right. That's fine. That's fine. Let's move on. Honorable Ndamasa.
Thank you very much, Chair. Greetings to yourself and the meeting at large. Greetings to the Minister and the Deputy. Chair, I would like to preface what I'm going to say by a statement that was used to be made by the Auditor-General almost 10 to 12 years ago, wherein, particularly in the Eastern Cape, when I was still on the other side of the fence, they would argue to ask a question about oversight, if oversight is really effective. And we didn't take it kindly, because we would argue as the legislative arm at that point that if we perform well, then the executive is not doing well. We can't be held responsible for that. That was the argument then. Now, it's for the first time for me to be part of this committee. I may be asking questions that are not as direct as they, but let me try. The first one, it is in relation to the 90 municipalities that have received qualification, wherein the AG is saying that they struggle to account for expenditure as one of the challenges that those municipalities are facing. And then my question is, to what extent does that struggle reflect some very dubious activities that are happening in that municipality when they cannot be able to account for expenditure? Secondly, there is only one municipality there on slide 6, one municipality, one metro that has received a clean audit. And we all know the huge budgets of these metropolitan municipalities. Some of them, their budgets are bigger than countries. You take Johannesburg, for instance, and then the question is still the same, the argument with the chairperson that they can afford anything in terms of making sure that they get requisite skills. What is actually happening that causes them not to perform? And then there is only one metro that is able to get a clean audit. Then your slide 13 has what is called ineffective use of consultants. And look, from where we are seated as the legislative arm, we would argue that do away with consultants. I know you cannot in-source everything, and I would accept that, even in case of the municipalities. But the question is, when you find situations, for instance, if you can look at what is happening in Limpopo, that slide, which is slide 13. In slide 13, there is Limpopo, and you look at the black line as well as the green line there, wherein the green line reflects 2022-2023 audit outcomes. And you can see that they are regressing in relation to that. Can you shed some light in relation to what actually is happening in that particular province in relation to this point? Then you have misstated misstatements that are not prevented, and there we have 87% work of consultants not adequately reviewed. What does that mean, AG? If these municipalities hire consultants and then at the end of the day, a whooping 87% work of those consultants is not adequately reviewed, then there are 9 municipalities wherein there is, the AG is arguing that there is poor project management. And then 4 municipalities, consultants did not deliver. Then the question is, when consultants have not delivered, what exactly has happened in relation to that kind of a transaction? Then look at the material irregularities. First, before I come to this question, can you shed light, AG, if there are specifics wherein you have issued a debt against a particular municipal manager or particular municipal managers? I know the amendment to the Audit Act is not as far as we would have wished. Are you therefore saying there, AG, 7.34 billion rands has been lost through material irregularities? Then you look at your slide 15. There is no appropriate action not taken, I assume, by 28 municipalities. Decision on invoking our powers is in process. What are you saying exactly? Because perhaps I might be confused by the usage of words there. What exactly, AG, are you saying there? Then there is your call to action wherein you talk about, you are saying, let's professionalize local government. Then the question is, what exactly does that entail if almost 30 years after democracy we're still talking about that professionalization of the local government? Then on the book that you have here, if I look at page 113, wherein you are talking about 3 municipalities in Eastern Cape, in Amatole, Makana, and Sundays River, wherein you are saying, despite spending a combined 42.5 million on consultants, then you are therefore intimating that they received disclaimer. What might have happened there after that huge expenditure in relation to the consultants? And then if you look at the same page, the other side of the page, where there is an issue of the infrastructure grants within the financial year, but 7 underspent these grants by more than 10%. Amatole and OR Tambo district municipalities were the primary contributors to this underspending, leading to the National Treasury withholding 90.9 million rand and 188 million rand. Now, my question goes to the department now. In relation to those, because if you look at these municipalities, your OR Tambo is a water services authority, the Amatole is a water services authority, and we can go on the ground. These municipalities have never achieved the RDP standard in terms of the access of water. Remember, RDP standard is 200 meters for each household away from a tap, and including my own community, my own locality. They have not. I'm talking about OR Tambo this time around, and the same thing is with Matol. And then their expenditure is as pathetic as is reflected.
Let's round up.
113. The last
Let's round up and let the other members go on.
Okay. The last one is on the issue that relates to the Municipal Public Accounts Committees. that have failed in their oversight role. Does that mean, as both the department as well as the committee, we must prioritize to make sure that we come closer to the performance of the public accounts committees in the municipalities? Thank you very much. Sorry, Chair.
Honorable Reddy.
Thank you, Chair, Minister, Deputy Minister, the AG and her team and colleagues. The AG's report is a wake-up call. It is a reminder that we cannot continue with business as usual. Our people deserve better, and it is our duty to ensure that local government delivers on its promises. We, as this committee, will continue to fight for accountability, transparency, and service delivery that meets the needs of all South Africans. I want to thank the AG and our office for an excellent presentation and for continuing to hold a mirror to the face of local government. The road ahead is challenging, but I believe that with determination and a political will, we can turn the tide and restore faith in our local government institutions. Chair, if you'll allow me, I would like to deal with some specifics raised by the AG, which I think is important that we all need to take note of. And I would also like to make suggestions, proposals on how we could best deal with this. One of the most alarming trends in the report is the deterioration of unqualified audits. We are not merely stagnating. In the words of the AG, we are going backwards. The lack of proper controls, particularly in maintaining asset registers, is a glaring issue. Municipalities are unable to report accurately, and this incompetence trickles down to the basic services that our citizens are denied daily. It is unacceptable that municipalities like Maluti Apafong and Detabona, is it Detabona? Desobodla. They have failed to even submit their financial statements. This is a dereliction of duty, and it is a betrayal of the public trust. However, there are glimmers of hope in the report in an otherwise bleak landscape. The fact that there are 30 entities that continue to achieve clean audits is a testament to the fact that when basic financial disciplines are in place, success follows. Municipalities like Umhlatuze, Stellenbosch, and George, among intermediate cities, have shown that it is possible to achieve clean audits even in these challenging times. Yet these are exceptions rather than the norms. The reality remains that our largest metros, which serve the most households, are not performing better than smaller municipalities. And this should be of concern to every one of us. What does this mean for our citizens, the residents of our city, of our country, as well as the ratepayers that contribute to these municipalities? It means that despite the vast resources that are at their disposal, these metros will continue to fail to deliver the basic services to the people that desperately need them. It is also deeply concerning that 75% of municipalities are unable to provide credible performance reports. And this is a direct consequence of political instability. Now, this is a response to my honorable colleague next door who asked about political interference. The AG was being nice and diplomatic about it, and she said, she spoke about political instability and the weakening of our institutions. The rise of unstable coalitions has exacerbated the problem, bleeding municipalities dry and leaving them incapable of delivering the basic services that is their mandate. The report also shines light on the poor financial management that plagues our municipalities. Unfunded budgets, unauthorized expenditures totaling a shocking 24.12 billion rands, and revenue losses due to inadequate billing and collection processes are just the tip of the iceberg. In eThekwini alone, residents are paying for 55% of water that's being lost in their systems. And this is unaccounted for water. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The basic disciplines, Madam AG and Chair, of financial management are simply not in place. And this neglect is costing our people daily. Even more concerning is the 7.41 billion rands in fruitless and wasteful expenditure, up from 4.88 billion in 2021 and 2022. Chair, this waste represents schools that were never built, roads that were never repaired, and services that were never delivered. This is not just about numbers. It is about the lives that are being negatively impacted by this gross mismanagement. The presence of 260 material irregularities with an estimated financial loss of 7.34 billion rands is a glaring indictment of our current system. However, we must take and recognize the positives. There are some positives, and those are the recovery of 2.61 million and the ongoing efforts to recover another 444 million show that where there is a will, there is a way. But these recoveries, while we welcome them, are just a drop in the ocean. Chair, I just want to conclude by saying this, that we need audit committees that are strengthened. We need to improve financial management systems in municipalities. We need to remove the political instability in municipalities, and that can only be led by political parties in this country. We need to address the skills gap. We need to stabilize the political leadership, as I mentioned, and we need to use effective consultants. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable Khalif.
Oh. No, Chair, uyasebenza umshini wami. Greetings to you, Chair. Greetings to the AG and colleagues and the Minister and the Deputy Minister right there at the back.
As long as you don't sing about it.
Umshini wami.
We can start.
No, thanks, Chair. Thanks for the opportunity. The presentation from the AG is always on point. As you alluded, Chairperson, from the beginning, that this report or this presentation is also preparing us to engage with municipalities. It gives us a very clear picture when we have to engage with municipalities. Chair, the 34 municipalities that obtain clean audit is a cause for concern. We can't have 257 municipalities, but only 34. Only 34 out of 257. I know the AG said 10 is still outstanding, but at least 247 municipalities has been audited, and this is the outcome. And it's even worse when the AG is saying 36 municipalities have regressed. I know from 2020 to 2021, we had 41, but unfortunately we are not going forward, we are going backwards. Chair, the AG also touched on the issue of the Public Audit Amendment Act, because always we receive such reports, very nice, we are equipped, we are empowered, but at the end of the day, the AG want to know what are the consequences, what will happen, because you said those 34, 30 of them, they are repeaters, so 4 of them, they are new. So what happened to the rest, AG? I know that the accounting officers, according to your powers, they are also expected to adhere to your recommendations. As a result, I want to ask a specific question. How many accounting officers has been taken to action? Because they are not accounting for these public funds. And we are saying correctly on the page 20 of this consolidated report, we have even said a clean audit is not always an indicator of a good service delivery. So it can be that you always point to municipalities to say, there is this that you need to attend as an accounting officer, and it's nothing that is promising. Because remember, as we are saying that this does not always indicate a good service. We are talking about the poorest of the poor there on the what level, where they are waiting for service delivery from the municipalities. And we've been engaging with the department on these issues because it's a huge concern. People, they vote every 5 years, but they don't get service delivery. And the public money, which is their money, by the way, when you go and pay for tax, you are expecting a good service delivery back. But people who are supposed to guard that money, they are not doing that. And there are no consequences. Maybe SG must tell us specifically, Uguti, no, after I have empowered through the amendment of Public Audit Act, this is what I have done as an Auditor General. There is one. During floods, AG, you conducted real-time audit. I think we've engaged on other platform. Please, can you also share with us, with this committee, did you win? What was your achievement on that one? Because I think receiving such a presentation or this information, sometimes we feel that as a committee is quite late. And if AG have told us in time, I would know, look, you need to tap in here and there, maybe the committee will do something and ask the department. Going to page 8 of the consolidated report, you are saying that under the, what should be done about the situation, which is the current situation, which is not good. You are saying that capable institution with intergovernmental support in all spheres of government through coordinated and collaborative efforts in partnership with municipal leadership will promote strong governance. Is it happening, AG? Are you coordinating this, or is anyone from intergovernmental support coordinating this? Because it's something when we receive your report, the department will come and present, and also treasurer will come and tell us in terms of section 154, we are giving the support on a particular municipality. A case in point is Durban, is eThekwini. We are receiving different reports. We receive a report from the department, and we know there's a support from the president and also from the previous administration in KZN, but we don't know what is the really problem. That takes me to the second question. I think some of the colleagues raised it to say that in your report, you are only talking about one metro that have received clean audit. And you are saying that intermediate cities, and you mentioned that Buffalo City and Tshwane. According to my understanding, Buffalo City and Tshwane is part and parcel of 8 metros. And we need to get to these municipalities, metros especially, because there's a lot of money that needs to be accounted for in the metro municipalities. AG, if you can tell us, which are those, what is the really picture in those metros? And then, Chair, because I'm mindful of the time, the last question that I want to ask from the AG, do you physically verify this project? I know you mentioned of one in Kimberley. That is not a good picture when you're painting here in Msunduzi. And you also in your presentation mentioned that you only visited 75 projects. So are you having a capacity as well as AG? I think you remember one matter that we dealt with in Metsimahul, whereby millions were spent, but only when you do the verification physical, there was no spot field, but money has gone. So when you do conduct this audit report, AG, do you do the physical verification? In terms of the UIWF, because everyone must account for the public pairs, do you also tap on the council resolutions? Because that's where corruption happens, AG, whereby the municipality will go to the council and say, let us take a resolution in this council, and also the role of the MPEC. Are you also ensuring that those MPEC are doing their job in terms of the accountability? Thanks very much, Chair. Let me just pause there.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mkhalipi. Let's have Honorable Labuskaghni.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, AG. I have a few questions that I would like to ask, and I start off with the number of municipalities with unqualified audits, and where you also mentioned that out of the 110, 70 of them are there for years. And then I will want to link that to the management of grants, where there's a referral to unspent grants, or the problems found is the delays in grants, the poor quality of services in infrastructure grants, and the cost overruns. And you've mentioned to be able to do this report, you visited 75 projects in unqualified municipalities. Now, my question is, there is the concern that you raised about unqualified municipalities that are there for years. The first question on this is, in these 75 projects that you visited, has there been any severe weather conditions or disasters that had impact on that? And if so, do you think that the fact that we are dealing with increased disasters or severe weather incidents that has a very big impact on infrastructures all over will have an impact on municipalities deteriorating to, in the end, to municipalities with qualified audits? And does it need stricter regulations on how these grants should be spent or not? Then I want to move to material in irregularities, and specifically where you mentioned in the outcome that there were findings that there was harm done to public institutions and harm to the general public with water pollution and site management and all these things. And you are referring to specifically officials identified and disciplinary processes is in process, fraud and criminal investigations, and supplier contracts stopped and so on. Are these material irregularities things that could have been picked up by their internal audit? Have they been picked up? And if they have been picked up by either internal audit and or the provincial departments through various reports, what was the reasons they gave you? And if you, I assume this is a little bit of an unfair question to the AG, but I would like to hear your answer, because I want to direct the same question then to the department and say, why does provinces don't pick it up and why don't they do consequence management? And then my question is, what is it that we as the portfolio committee chair can do to support our, or to make this something that provinces should be part of their support to these municipalities? Because as the AG said, in a lot of these municipalities with qualified audits might fall back instead of going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Fonseca.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to the... Oh, no, we're not afternoon yet. I thought we would be by the time it got to me. But good morning still to the Minister, the Deputy Minister, the Chair, the AG. Thank you for the report. I quickly wanted to talk about the clean audits. So 34 out of 257 means that there's 13% with clean bill of health, which is very concerning for us, I think, as CoGTA, that only 13% of municipalities within South Africa has a clean bill of health. I've further broken them down, and 7% of them comes from the Western Cape. I've not done more. But if I look at the breakdown you gave on one of the slides, it said the Western Cape has 20, the Eastern Cape has 4, KZN has 4, the Northern Cape has 3, Mpumalanga has 2, Gauteng has 1, and then the Free State, Limpopo, and Northwest each has 0. So as this committee, we've been discussing the distressed municipalities, the dysfunctional municipalities, etc. And I wanted to find out, maybe from the AG, maybe from the department, I don't know who's going to draw the comparison, is that in those provinces where there was no clean audits, the Free State, the Limpopo, the Northwest, if there's a comparison to be made with how dysfunctional and distressed those municipalities actually are. Something the Honourable Kalipi said actually caught my attention, and I had to go look because the interactive interface you have on the Auditor-General reports per provinces is actually quite nice. I've been able to just take some information. She spoke about Buffalo City and Tshwane. I've had a look at Buffalo City, and it looks like they've actually regressed in their audit opinion, but Tshwane has actually improved. So I'd like you to please unpack that if you can. Then we know the state of local government. It was now just, we've seen it. And, you know, talking about the material irregularities, about the targets that need to be met, all these things, and what it does to the people on the ground. you know, if it's a gogo drinking from the same water stream because there's no piped water that animals drink from, or the hairdresser that has to close down her shop because a transformer is blown over a week ago and the municipality has not been able to actually fix that transformer. This is the state of local government. And it all comes down to poor planning, poor controls. And that is something I think this committee has grappled with for 25 years. Then I wanted to quickly talk about the unfunded budgets. It's a massive issue. And I mean, if you connect that with, say, for instance, the collection rates of municipalities and the ability of the accounting office to actually collect those rates, this obviously links with service delivery issues, poor service delivery issues, and municipalities or communities then actually robbed from service delivery. So you will now find that these municipalities specifically are receiving disclaimers or adverse or qualified. And it's those municipalities that now overburdens their residents with rate shocks. The municipality that I live in, which is Walter Sisulu Local Municipality in the Eastern Cape, a valuation roll was just done quite recently, where residents received rate shocks of 500% and more increases on their property rates. And this is to substitute now these material irregularities of them not being able to fix transformers, them having to pay massive Eskom bills and the like, the water boards that they owe money to. So the residents are now forced to pay all these rates and taxes that's been increased, but yet they don't actually get the services for it. And what I wanted to say is that this becomes a cycle, because that would mean that some of these residents now cannot afford to pay these excessive bills from the municipality. And then they then go into the category that cannot pay, and then you sit with unfunded budgets more and more. So there's definitely correlations that we can compare and draw to attention, but I think this is something that this committee must really look into. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I haven't picked up anything that the audit has said in relation to the indigent citizens. How are we doing on that side? We've had a very high cost of living, and the municipalities are at the forefront of dealing with this problem. What has been the AG's finding in this regard? Are we getting protection for our poor citizens? Are we able to see which way the municipalities are managing that side? I think it would be good for the Auditor-General team to respond, but obviously our biggest issue is about how the department, provincial and national, are actually dealing with these issues. Issue of unfunded budgets that's been raised, issue of ultimately the poor service delivery that results from that. All these issues are the issues that we want to be dealing with when we visit these particular municipalities. I think we have made a very important point that disclaimers are equal to very ineffective service delivery, and we're also very keen. It looks like to us there are municipalities where there are interventions where we are not surprised when we see the audit outcomes, but there are other municipalities that are not classified as dysfunctional, but where we see the audit results are not really very encouraging. So I think it would be good to get a sense on the definition of dysfunctionality in relation to those that don't appear here, but the results are also showing a problem. We discussed the issue of the impact of coalition government to service delivery, but I think we are quite conscious of the fact that it is not only just coalition governments. instability, political instability has resulted from inter-party, intra-party kinds of conflicts. And again, there we need to be upfront to say that where those exist, it actually has an impact on the services. Our responsibility as we sit here is about how do we protect communities, how to make sure that we don't have sewage running down the streets, you don't have dump sites that are unprotected and people are getting infected from those, you don't have rodents moving around causing diseases because of bad maintenance. And you also want to make sure that when as the committee we look at the governance of the municipality, there's no wastage, so that people, whatever little amount of resources that are available, we are able to deliver the best possible services, as it were. So we have taken that posture from here that we want to strengthen the oversight and accountability over those particular municipalities where there's already red flags that are showing. There are names here that are too familiar for bad reasons. Maluti Apofu, Titsobosha, you're getting a lot of those, but Mfuleni, we have had issues, and of course we've got a whole lot of other metros, Tshwane, Guruleni, eThekwini, and so on. So all of these require us to work very closely, and so we just want you to maybe respond to the issues that the members have raised, but we need to get back to the minister to get a sense as to how are they going to deal with this, because ultimately the regression is visible. And of course, on the other side, we got a report that there's an improvement in the functionality of the municipalities. We don't see that quite here, so we need to get that picture properly balanced. So let's allow Auditor General to respond, and then we'll hand over to the Minister thereafter. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Honourable Chair, and I'd like to greet the Minister and the Deputy Minister. And thank you to the honourable members for the different questions posed to me. I'll focus on the questions posed. A number of the inputs were comments, which I find difficult to disagree with. So I'll focus on just responses to the specific questions. So Honourable Souls, you ask about the impact of our MIs and whether or not there's been evidence of fraud and criminal investigations that are underway. I'll give you a couple of examples. So back in 2019, there was a contractor that was appointed by Machabeng municipality to deal with a project on stormwater drainage systems, and they didn't deliver on this particular part of their project, and they were overpaid by just over 7 million rand. We picked this up as part of our audit, and we used our powers, which were still quite new at the time, to then raise the material irregularity, raising with the accounting officer who was in office at the time, the point that they needed to investigate and then stem the loss. We gave them the opportunity to deal with the matter. When we came back for a follow-up, because the law now requires we must follow up, we can't wait another year. We have to keep following up. So after an appropriate period, we followed up. We realized they were not acting on the matter. We then referred that particular matter to the Hawks for investigation. That referral was done in 2021. When we followed up with the Hawks, we had not yet received much feedback, but towards the end of 2023, we saw in the media that there were suspects that had been arrested in relation to this specific referral. Whether or not the 7 million rand will come back, we don't know at this time, but there are people who have been arrested and are facing criminal charges. And there are specific examples even in our general report. In Mogalakwena, Moshate Dam was an issue where there was a contractor who'd been overpaid. That matter, the accounting officer did not act on, but eventually we referred it to the police and is also being investigated. So there are people in different parts of the country that are facing charges related to matters we've raised in relation to our audits and using our powers. Perhaps whilst I'm still speaking about Machabeng, and I'll use the opportunity to deal with a question that Honourable Direko asks about this use of consultants. In Machabeng, following the 2021 elections, there was now a new council and a new mayor came into office. We raised with this mayor a few issues around how the municipality was relying inappropriately on consultants for the sole purpose of compiling financial statements. And at the time, they were still getting disclaimers of audit opinion. The mayor then took up our issue and implemented a recommendation, which was that you've got to appoint people with skills to do the basics on a regular basis. You're not going to be able to continue to use these financial reporting consultants in this inappropriate manner. You're going to keep losing money, and you're losing the opportunity to build institutional capability. Following the implementation of our recommendations, a team of professionals was appointed full-time, permanently as officials in the municipality, and their job is to compile financial statements. That auditee has now moved from disclaimer, they moved into adverse and are now qualified. And when I talk to the team in the Free State, the members of Team AGSA that audit that specific municipality, they tell me that they can see evidence that the movement is in the right direction, and they have every confidence that if these basics continue to be implemented by these appointed people, the municipality will even move out of qualified. I raise this to highlight a couple of points. One is this issue of using consultants inappropriately often is because there isn't attention to building institutional capability. The issue can only be resolved by political will and a decision to invest in capability for the institution. And this issue takes time. They didn't move out of disclaimer in 1 year. They moved out of disclaimer into adverse and then into qualified over a subsequent period. And it's going to continue to take this consistent focus on building capability to get the basics done. There was a question that was raised by Honorable Musini, I think it is, about the outstanding audits, and I think it came up again. So it's names you've heard before. Dijobotla has been outstanding for 2 years, Maluda performed for 3 years. And as to why that would continue as a norm for many years, our analysis of it is that it's political will. What have we done as Team HSA? We've given insight as to what actually happens in those municipalities where there's non-submission of financial statements. We've given insight as to the responsibilities of the different players in the ecosystem, giving specific recommendations as to what the province should do. And we've also used our powers of enforcement, issuing MIs that raise the alarm about non-compliance that is associated with non-submission. As a consequence, there's been action in this regard. We can't go and compile those financials, but we can offer support by giving insight, by giving influence, by using our influence, but also by using our enforcement powers. And out of that, we've been able to get submissions much improved. If you look at the Free State, the rate of submission has increased significantly over time. And it's because of the time we've been investing in engaging with the provincial leadership, starting with the Premier, working with the provincial treasury, as well as the provincial CoGTA. So I hope that answers the question as to what we've done and how we're doing it. The law provides, the MFMA provides that every municipality should submit financial statements to the AG for audit by the 30th of June. Or pardon me, the 30th of June is the financial year end, I beg your pardon. The law says they must submit those financials to us for audit by the 31st of August. So we are now in the final days of awaiting submission for municipalities for this new financial year. We are required to then audit and finish those audits by November of that year, and those audit reports should be tabled with an annual report in council and processed by council by the 31st of January the following year. That's what the law provides for. If municipalities deal with these responsibilities as designed, the audits continue and we're able to finish them on time. It's only in rare instances where they submit late. So for example, in the Free State, some of the non-submissions were cured by submissions, but some of those submissions, because they were multi-year, were late this year. But we'll get that out of the system. It remains our 7th administration in each of these provinces will continue on this work started by the 6th administration and not go backwards. Otherwise, we'll still be talking about poor submissions, late submissions, disclaimers. We've got to build on the momentum that was there at the end of the term of the 6th administration. Honorable Direko, you ask about the role players, political interference. I'll answer it this way. The MFMA places specific duties and responsibilities on the accounting officer, the MM, and the Public Audit Act requires that we audit that which has been done by the MM, and our report in many ways engages with the role of the accounting officer. We don't audit what happens in the realm of the political playfield, let's call it that. That's not to say that we don't see the impact of political instability on the administration, which is why we can raise the matter quite sharply. We similarly raise a matter about the need to capacitate those political representatives that end up on municipal councils. If you look at the law relating to what it is the council is charged with, it's imperative that there be decisive action to equip them to engage with those duties properly. There are far too many political representatives that don't have the ability to live up to the expectations that come with the role that they have. So it's imperative that there be a coordinated and decisive effort to deploy people who can do the work and then to invest in their ongoing capability. Then there was a matter about the fruitless and wasteful expenditure around how does it impact service delivery. So what we see is that cash flow concerns in a municipality, unless reined in, continue to weaken the institution. So if a municipality doesn't have the resources to invest in the capabilities it needs to do its billing, they're not going to be able to even collect correctly. Then they don't have the cash they need to pay their suppliers, let alone the cash they need to maintain their infrastructure. When they don't maintain the infrastructure, they end up incurring financial loss through distribution losses on electricity and water. And then the cycle continues. So the ability of municipalities to get out of that space then becomes quite constrained, especially as resources get worse and as residents are unable to pay for the services they do receive. What's the remedy? There are policy decisions to be made around the funding of municipalities and the demarcation. That's not our space as the Auditor General. Ours is to look at the key disciplines that would make for effective and efficient deployment of the resources that municipalities do have in their hands. So you'll find that many of our messages relate to the need to build institutional capabilities to get municipalities to do what they're supposed to do with the resources that they have in their hands. Honorable Daibosh, I think I've answered the question about Maludia Pufung and why the audit is not done. And much of the submission problems we lay at the door of the political leadership. Honorable Ndama said the 90 municipalities that are qualified, they are the ones who struggle to get projects done properly. Then they don't even get the projects put into their books properly. When I say getting a project done properly, it is about making sure that you can prepare a project, have it implemented properly, monitoring the consultant, or the contractor, having appointed a contractor that's most suitable, who's able to get the job done, and then monitoring that contractor effectively and putting in place the type of controls that make sure that you get good quality for the amount of money you're spending. In the work we've done, and maybe I'm coming to Honorable Mkalepi's request or question about did we go and inspect projects? We were deliberate about going to inspect projects. And we've been doing this for a number of years. We can't inspect every single project, but we are deliberate about selecting projects so that we can understand where the money is going and link the debits and credits to reality on the ground. And so in our report from page 46, you'll see an account of some of the stories we can tell you around the projects we've seen. We have some good stories, such as in Nkangala District Municipality, where there was a project in place, an infrastructure project, and that project was not going well, but then the municipality used its contract to hold the contractor accountable and use the retention amounts available to them to make sure the contractor delivered the quality that was required. And that's the type of thing you want. what we're seeing is that these good practices are all too rare. But I'm hoping that this report will give you a sense of the expansive work we've done as the team at Team AGSA. We've included in our teams people who have different expertise than accountants and auditors. We have on our teams engineers and quantity surveyors and environmental experts and the like, so that when we go visit a stormwater drainage project, we can actually give you a credible answer about what's happening there. I think it would be very difficult for me to tell you about whether a reservoir project has gone well or not, bean counter that I am. The metros and the use of consultants, I think Honorable Ndamase, you were asking about what's happened with Limpopo and the use of consultants. We found that in Limpopo, the reliance on the use of consultants has been high for many years, and you'll see the number has always been high. And we've cautioned about this within the the province, about the too high reliance on consultants to get financial statements right. And so when we raised this with the provincial leadership in the past year, in fact, the Premier, the then Premier, committed to work on this to get the number reduced. Unfortunately, it has not yet come to pass, but it is a matter that the provincial executive is seized with. The 87 instances where the work of consultants was not adequately reviewed. What's the answer? If a CFO doesn't have the skills to competently review what's been done, it's not going to happen. If they don't have the discipline to engage themselves in this work, instead of saying, well, it's outsourced, the consultant must deal with the auditors, and I'm out of it, and basically ignoring their own duties, then you're going to have problems. Maybe the third thing, it's about culture. If a CFO knows that they will be held accountable for poor performance, they'll actually do their work. So if they're skilled and there's a culture that requires a component around consultants that don't deliver, but much of it is about the fact that the people appointed as the stewards and officials responsible for running government are not doing their job. The certificate of debt, have we issued one? No, not yet. We were considering one. We've not come right to issue it yet, but we are looking at different modalities. We're finding that when we issue an MI and we keep following up, there is responsiveness. So the part where we say, if you look at the status, 103 of the MIs have been resolved. 117 are in the process of being resolved. And we've looked at the proposed action by accounting officers, and we believe that it is adequate and appropriate to deal with the issue. And if that's the case, we give them the opportunity to deal with the issue. We'll only take a view about issuing recommendations, referring matters ourselves, or taking remedial action if we believe that they're not dealing with the issue properly. That 29, where we say appropriate action not taken, it just means that at the time that we did this analysis, we had received insight that the accounting officer was not taking the appropriate action. And then we were still in the process of assessing what next step we're going to take, whether it's a referral or recommendation or both. So it's an ongoing process. We don't stop following up on these MIs. It's a regular process. No longer do we audit and go away. We now audit, and if there's an MI, we keep following up. So that's why you'll have a number like that. So the question about what do we mean by professionalizing local government? Simply put, it's implementing the professionalization framework that was approved by Cabinet in the last administration. In it are components that deal with appointing people that have the skills and competence to do what's required, about having a code of ethics or a code of conduct that applies to officials and public servants. There's reference to stability and tenure. There's reference to consequence management. There's reference to belonging to professional bodies. There's reference to ongoing professional development. If those things are implemented, we believe that we'll start to see a change in local government. Then I think the Honourable Reddy, I think I'm grateful for your comments Honorable Mkalipi, the clean audits, the only way we're going to close the gap between clean audits and service delivery is if we change the culture. If a professional has the culture of ensuring that their municipality performs on mandate, we're not going to keep struggling with people who have clean audits at the expense of service delivery. And similarly, if accounting officers and their councils are appropriately concerned with ensuring that they are transparent and accountable, we're not going to have problems with submissions of financial statements or the journey towards clean audits. We believe that we've got to worry about the culture that embraces all of those things. We don't get to choose transparency and accountability and not perform. It doesn't work. You've got to do all of it. We've looked at the clean audits and we've looked at disclaimers on the other hand. And what we found is that the ones with the clean audits are where projects generally go well, and you'll see this in our report. We went to visit the projects of clean audits. Or if there's a problem, they detect it properly and they deal with it quickly. The ones with disclaimers are where the projects go unattended for too long and they're delayed, etc. So we can see a direct correlation between good governance from an audit point of view, but also delivery on the other side. The use of grants. The clean audit municipalities are more efficient and effective in using the grants in their hands as compared to the ones that have poorer audit outcomes. When we look at even visiting infrastructure assets such as wastewater treatment plants, we find more problems in municipalities that don't have clean audits than those that do. I'm hoping I've answered the question on the MIs and the consequence management issues. On real-time issue audits, did we win? I believe we won in terms of resource protection. We also won in highlighting the need to build institutional capability, because part of the reason why there was such a delay in implementing projects that would deal with the infrastructure that needed to be fixed, for example, or in resettling people that had lost their homes as a result of these disasters. Part of it was about not having adequate institutional capability within those municipalities to do their work. So I think it sharpened that insight. On the role of coordination, I'm glad the Minister is here and the DG is here as well as the DM. They would be well positioned to deal with this. Our own observation and our own experience over many years is that when there is ownership and coordination at the level of the Premier, CoGTA, and Provincial Treasury, that's when you win. People often ask, why do the Western Cape seem to have more clean audits on a repeated basis? Why are there is there better performance across those municipalities? Part of it is the coordination there. The good thing is we're seeing more and more of this coordination across other parts of the country. And I think I did raise it when I talked about the submissions in different provinces, the dealing with disclaimers. So you just need that coordination. Then, do we look at council resolutions? Yes, we do as part of our audit, as it's a normal part of it. The Honorable Labaskachni, the projects we visited were not all for unqualified. We chose some clean, some disclaimer, but we're deliberate about finding some in unqualified to drive the message that this space is uncomfortable and the continued neglect of service delivery imperatives actually has a detrimental impact on infrastructure and on service delivery. And then the role of internal audit, it's imperative that everyone in this ecosystem be seized with not just financial management, but performance management as well. So the AG should never be expected to go and visit every project 3 or 4 times a year. The institution should be building capability to ensure that somebody is monitoring a project regularly. An internal audit also goes to supplement what they're doing and check again so that they can pick up problems quickly as an institution and deal with them. it's no good waiting for the AG to come and look at things at the year end, at the end of the year. So our appeal is that everyone in this ecosystem ought to be seized with looking beyond the debits and credits. Our anxiety tends to be that when people get clean, unqualified audits, they kind of are left alone and nobody worries about how they are dealing with the other aspects of how they're running their affairs. And then Honorable Van Zyl, maybe there's just a few of the questions you had. Yes, BCM did go backwards, mainly because of internal controls issues, particularly in the area of procurement. And City of Tshwane, yes, was an adverse audit opinion before, and they've moved out of that, having dealt with a number of the misstatements we'd identified. We hope that they'll continue to move in the right direction. And so I think I'm coming to the very last question you posed, Honorable Chair, on indigent. We do look at this area as part of looking at grants. We're finding that there is ineffective use of the resources that are deployed by central government towards helping municipalities provide services to those that are indigent. And we say inefficient or ineffective use of those grants because we see that sometimes the indigent registers are not updated and maintained properly. You end up with people who should not be there on the list and people who should be on the list not being there. And that's a basic management discipline that should be in place. And sometimes we find that that money is not then deployed towards supporting those indigent families with access to free water or a particular volume thereof, or even access to electricity. And the classification of dysfunctional municipalities, I'm sure the Minister and DM and DG will be well versed to respond to that. But I do take your comment that we ought to be working together to make sure that we're not missing each other on what we see and what they see. And I want to give every assurance that we are dedicated to deepening that collaboration. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. AG, because we are aware you have some other engagement coming from this meeting, we would want to try and round this matter up and then allow the members to deal with the one outstanding issue before we have to prepare for our session. But because the Minister is here, I'm going to be requesting Minister to make comments. But just to say, Minister, we will not assume that Minister would have had sight of all this report. I would imagine that you would have, but we're not so much focusing on getting all the questions to the ministry, to the department. But there are a number of areas that we would like the Minister to address for us, not necessarily all now, probably just to prepare for us so that we can have a kind of comprehensive understanding of how you're responding to the issues. Particularly maybe link it up to the presentations that we have asked for dysfunctional municipalities. Now, there are following about 9 areas that out of this report would be, for the committee, would be very important to see how is the department addressing these issues. The first of those is what is the plan to address the deteriorating audit reports. Now, you have seen the whole classification. Now we want to sit here and say, at least we understand how you're going to be addressing them. And when we say how you're addressing them, we're looking at the Minister, we're looking at the executive at the top as well as the provincial and local level. The second aspect refers to what actions are we taking to deal with the repeat disclaimers, those repeat offenders. We're not talking in generalities now, but there are municipalities now that have a reputation that they actually are repeat offenders. Now, we would need to get a plan. What is the plan of the department? The third one is the issue of the inappropriate use of consultants. This issue is not about only the waste of money that goes to the payment for consultants. It's the building of the systems inside the municipality. And I think here we look up to the department to oversee, ensure, and supervise and encourage the municipalities to move away but to build their own. And so we'd like to see that plan from the minister. Then we'd like to also see specific actions on some of this. What actions is the minister taking on the areas of political interference? Now, that's right across. Where there is, inappropriate interventions by the political leaders, whether it's a conflict between members of a party who are in the leadership, whether it is the conflict of the multi-party coalition arrangement that is causing impasse in the management of the municipality. What is the department doing about that? It's going to be something that some department must be able to take action on that. Then, then of course, the other one, which for us is big, what is the action? And this again is targeted because they've been lifted up by the AG. What is the action that's being taken to those municipalities that have misdirected conditional grants? You got grants, but they go and use them for something that they're not meant for. We'd like to see that, what is the action at that level. Then, of course, the next area relates to the financial management issues, issues of revenue and expenditure, but in particular, the unfunded budgets. How do we stop that? There should be a deadline that says from now on going forward, there can't be anyone who's got an unfunded budget, full stop, and then the minister shows us what it is planned to deal with that. Then, of course, the other one is what actions, what consequences, and how do we deal with the correction of unauthorized expenditure. That, again, is something that's been lifted up here, a huge amount that needs to be focused on. Then the last two will then relate to plans to deal with consequence management on actions that have been identified in the Auditor General's report. We wouldn't like it to go to waste. Now, certain things have been identified by the Auditor General, and so we'd like to know what is the action that's been taken so that next year we don't have to ask that question again. We need to be, as part of the response, we'll be knowing that this is what the AG has done. Now, the AG has been given extra powers, but part of the powers, we can see that the AG is actually more a support structure rather than the one that should actually be on the sharp edge of action in relation to consequence management, except it becomes extreme. The last one is criminal investigations that would have actually arisen as a result of the revelations from the Auditor General's office. I think, Minister, you obviously are going to give us a lot more of the insight into this matter, being the head of the portfolio. But I think for us, if you are not ready to deal with that now, that will not be our issue because we're just raising the issues. But we would say the minister could prepare to come back and then give us a bit more insight on these issues. As I said, preferably at the time when we have to deal with the details of the dysfunctional municipalities, because it's all linked at this point. So it would help us as well to see that there is now a correlation between what you see as dysfunctionality and what the audit outcomes that are deteriorating. I think then from that point of view, it helps the committee to be able to conduct oversight responsibility. May I then hand over to the minister to make your comments? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chair Kawazela, greetings to the Deputy Minister, greetings to the Auditor General and her team, and greetings to the honorable members, the DG, and all senior managers present. Firstly, Honorable Chairperson, as our apology was recorded, if there is a cabinet committee, it is compulsory. As members will know, that is why we had to join late. And if it is on Wednesday, clashing with the cabinet meeting, it is compulsory on my side. That is why I couldn't make it last time, but the DM led the team. Firstly, Chairperson and honorable members, we will come back with more details on the 9 items the chairperson raised. But I do want to make the few comments. The Auditor-General made a call to action, and she was very specific that if 3 things can be done, I do not want to repeat them because they are clearly written down. The Government of National Unity has prioritized the local government as a focus point. A chairperson last week at a cabinet level, we agreed to form an interministerial committee which compose of certain key ministries. CoGTA is leading, human settlement, water and sanitation, energy and electricity, treasury, and transport. Those are key ministries forming this committee. And in 21 days, we will present a turnaround plan in dealing with dysfunctional municipalities. And we will share this report with the committee chair once it is ready. The turnaround plan will be having short-term goals for a period of 3 months, because the truth, we only have 26 months now before the next elections in 2026. So we will have 3 months target, 6 months target, and 12 months target. When we classify the municipalities and things that we want to see a change, we will use these 3 categorization. The plan, chairperson and honorable members, will classify municipalities into functional municipalities, but we will want to zoom in to dysfunctional municipalities. And we have taken a further step of categorizing the 10 West municipalities in South Africa. We know them now. And we know these 10 West performing municipalities come from Free State, Eastern Cape, and Northern Cape. We will be very focused on these municipalities in these provinces. That is where the point of coordination and cooperation will have to come at play at a provincial government level in the 3 provinces, at a local government level, and at a national level. But what we will further do, Chair, in this period of 21 days, we will want to get details of who is there. What are the qualifications of the MM? Just to understand. Because if you made a wrong deployment, you will hardly get the correct product. We may not do anything for now, but we will need to know who is the MM in the 10 West performing municipalities as a top priority. What are the qualifications? Who is the CFO? What are the qualifications? Because you might find a person, a CFO, not meeting the minimum requirement of that position, but the council appointed him or her because they can approve. So we need to know who is the CFO, who is the Director Technical Services in terms of qualification, and lastly, the Director Corporate Services. What is the qualification? Because if corporate is not a suitably qualified person, things will go upside down in any way. And lastly, Chair, who is the mayor? And what are his or her qualifications? Because if you deploy a person who is not competent enough in this age to lead a municipality and come with a turnaround plan, you will never see a change. And these issues, Chair, the Speaker, what is the competence of the Speaker? Just to share one item, Chair. A Speaker can preside over a meeting that takes a wrong decision, and they record the decision as a council decision. But if you say in terms of the law, this is wrong, then you go to the competence of the Speaker. We need to understand that in the 10 worst performing municipalities, who is there? You can come with a turnaround plan. They might not comprehend it because of the level. This, therefore, Chair, will have to talk to political parties deploying these people, because we raise them these issues that if you want to intervene at Maluti Apofong, I was looking at this municipality, Chair, in 2009, they got a disclaimer. So they have a history of disclaimers, 2009. And if you look in terms of the submissions to AG for 3 years, Maluti Apofong is not submitting the full component. Now, there should be a political will from people who deploy these people, Chair. A municipality that is failing to submit what is due first year, second year, third year, there should be a message going to a person who deployed that person. And we will raise it that, you see, there are political issues. If you keep a person who is not competent, I know it is a function of the officials to submit, but a mayor should say, why should I keep you as an MM and CFO if you don't submit the AFS? That question must be raised by a mayor. Because the mayor must say, if my party discharge me to do this job and I am failing and they withdraw me, but you will go first before I leave. If the mayor doesn't have that command, people are just relaxed. So now, Chair, there will need to be a political will at the end of the day. And we will raise this matter sharply, that this is a turnaround plan, but it must be accompanied by a political will. We will need, Chair, the message that we will be conveying even to the cabinet, to the parliament, to this committee, that when it is time that we must be decisive, we must be decisive. Chair, you will know there is a municipality where the cabinet resolved to deploy under Section 154 a cabinet representative. The municipality is refusing to accept the person. Why do you allow them to do that? Because it's either you accept the person we deploy to assist you If you say, I don't want this person, you must escalate to a position of dissolving at the end of the day. Because why do you keep a municipality for 5 years that is not performing? When you want to give support, they say we don't want support. Then why are you not being decisive on that matter? So now we will categorize these municipalities that here you need an extra support, bearing in mind it's only 2 years to go to the next election. But in a period of 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, there should be a tick. And if there isn't a tick, there should be a message sent across that it can't go as normal for the next 2 years, except if you cooperate. Chair, there was a question of the relationship. Indeed, there is, the AG explained it very well. There is a relationship between a dysfunctional municipality, a disclaimer, and non-submission. I'm not saying Maluti Apofong, what they did not submit, the forecorner is going to be a disclaimer. But looking at the history of the municipality, it's dysfunctional, doesn't submit, and has a history of disclaimers. So this is all what we will be looking at. And the issue of the use of consultants, Chair, we will be guided by law, but we need to raise a question that why isn't there a clause to the consultants that if you don't deliver, what are we paying you for? If you give us a disclaimer, why should we pay you? Because what are we paying for? Now, in terms of the plan, Chair, on the question of the consultants, I think we'll come back with a very informed position. But from where I come from, Chair, we at one stage hired a person to collect us money from people who were owing us. And then he wanted to charge us even if he had not collected anything. And I said, what are we paying for? Because you must pay on the basis of what you collected. If you did not collect anything, we don't pay you anything. And we became enemies. I said, no, well, it's fine, you can leave. Because we are paying for a service to you. So now a similar approach. But there is a complexity, Chair, here. Because municipalities will not do what is due for them. And the consultant will be chasing them up and down, wanting documents requested by AG. And they don't get the documents. And eventually they get a disclaimer. So now the issue of consultant will come with a very informed recommendation as to going forward, how do we deal with this matter? Chair, on the issue of the section 139, 154, we will need to do an audit. There are municipalities that are under administration for more than 10 years. I come from Umkanyagote. It has been under section 139 for more than 10 years. Clearly, it is not working. Why? Probably you will need to question who are these people deployed there and what competencies they have. I'm saying this one, Chair, because I know the history of Umkanyagote and people who were deployed there. As a councillor, I had issues that in all municipalities these people have been, they have never turned the municipality around and leave having achieved what they were deployed for. They are only removed because there are issues, they are placed in another municipality. We need to have a different approach now as to why other municipalities stay for too long under section 139. Where is the problem? We will give a response even on that one. And of course, the alignment, Chair, I must indicate, like eThekwini issue, we were there in eThekwini a week ago, because there is one section 39, there is 154, there is presidential eThekwini working group, and we agreed that all these sections must work together. Because if there is a duplication facing different directions, we will never achieve what we want to achieve. And lastly, Chair, as the Auditor General indicated on the question of cooperation, we were thoroughly appraised by the AG as the leadership of CoGTA, and we want to assure the AG, even in this platform, that we will tap in to her team in terms of further contributions in turning around the situation in our municipalities. We are determined to come with a new approach, but what will determine everything is the political will to take a decisive action when a need arises to do so. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. That's very reassuring, and we certainly look forward to the opportunity to interrogate the plans you have to address the issues that have been raised by the Auditor General's office. And certainly we have placed our request to the department for a more detailed analysis of the individual municipalities which are dysfunctional, and therefore we'll be looking at them with a combined analysis that comes from the Auditor General, as it were. What we all agree also in this matter is that to turn around municipalities requires political will. Political will from the government at the national level, at the provincial level, and at the municipal level. It also requires political will on the part of the parties that are participating in that municipality. Anything that those parties don't agree to do, don't wish to do, will not happen. So no law you can pass unless those particular parties take responsibility themselves. So we are therefore determined as this committee excuse me, to give support to ensure that there is accountability on these matters, to ensure that there is consequence management, to ensure that there's a turnaround, because at the end of it, it's all in support of service delivery. Without these basics being in place, you don't expect service delivery. Therefore, you can't be surprised that there's a public discontent, there's a mass demonstration, there's a protest on the basis of service delivery, when in fact we've already got a warning from the Auditor General telling us that they are not managing properly. It's only just a matter of time before the public response on such issues. So we need to say, it needs to come to an end. We need to say that, by the time people have to come to an election next year, in 2 years' time, these issues have been addressed, and we must really face the real challenges of inadequate resources, not on the basis of mismanagement, maladministration, corruption, lack of political will, political interference. All of those things need to be eliminated as factors in the issue of service delivery. So we look forward to this interaction, Mr. Minister and your team. And thank you once again for your comments as well as your presence together with the Deputy Minister and the department. Let me take this opportunity now to...
Just 1 minute, Chair. I just omitted 2 things, just for sharing. Doing things differently. There is a municipality that requested us to concur. They want to be upgraded from category 2 to category 3. And we know the implication in terms of remuneration. They say they are collecting a lot of money. Their allocation is good now, but they adopted the unfunded budget. The council approved for the upgrade, the MEC concurred for the upgrade. And we said no. Firstly, adopt the funded budget and come with your request to be upgraded from category 2 to category 3. The point I'm trying to drive, Chair, we need to do things differently. If it has been a norm that if the council resolve, the MEC concurs, the minister must follow the suit, we are saying, no, we're not going to follow what is not right. We will differ if you do something that is not right until you come to us with something right, and then you request our concurrence. I just wanted to share that one, that, you know, we will be not good people to those councillors, and I'm not sure whether the MEC came back because it's about 3 weeks ago. We said, no, this one, I'm not going to do it. They must do the right thing first before we upgrade them. Doing things differently. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. Let me then take this opportunity on behalf of the committee to thank the Auditor General. Thank you for a very elucidating presentation, and thanks for being here yourself personally. We feel very special, I must say, but we must also say that we believe that for us to have the right frame of mind moving forward, we need to actually have the space to not just get a presentation, but also to raise questions and get answers from your side, so that as we move forward. On the other hand, of course, you also have to account to this parliament as well, and therefore to each and every one of those that have to deal with your report. We need to also look at how the institution itself is performing. So that for us has also been quite encouraging and quite satisfactory. So I'd like us to therefore release the Auditor General at this point. May I also just serve notice that we will be keeping the department to finish off the portion of the committee work program which we're supposed to do this this afternoon, but we also have pressure to go to Parliament. So I'm going to be releasing already Honorable Mkalipi as soon as she's made her initial comments, and then of course other members have moved out because we're preparing for the session. Members of the media, thank you very much. May we see all your reports out there in the public media, and I hope that you'll have been seeing the smiles of our members. They'll appear there. But from where we sit now, I don't know what the minister would like to do, but we just take a 5 minutes break to allow the changeover, and then we'll just proceed straight away after that. The documents have been submitted, so I'm going to ask the members to comment, respond to the documents that have been submitted. Thank you very much. We take a 5 minute stretch break, and thanks very much to the Auditor General and her team. Thank you.